If you remember the Piraka rap, the ugliest Toa ever made, and struggling to get the damn squid launcher to fire, then you were there when Bionicle ruled the world. In the last two videos we explored Bionicle's origin story, starting with the elemental heroes of Mahri Nui and leading through the sprawling prequel saga of Mahri Nui. We saw the line evolve through mechanical improvements and more complex storytelling, eventually becoming a worldwide multimedia franchise. And by 2005, the story had completed its detour into the past and fans were eager to finally move forward. So would it be everything that we hoped for? Well, let's find out. 2006 would mark a big turning point for the series. The tone, the style, and even the presentation shifted dramatically. The tribal mystique of the early years gave way to a grittier, more aggressive sci-fi world, with darker sets, harsher lines, and a strange reliance on rap and pop-punk music. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. The 2006 story picked up where the Mask of Light left off. After 3 years of blueballing the fandom, our heroes, the Toa Inika, finally reached Mahri Nui, only to find that there was not much there. Oh, and also the Great Spirit was dying, and in order to save him, they would actually need to go to a brand new island, Voya Nui, a shattered landmass floating above a massive pit. The Toa Inika traveled to this new island, but they were too late. The new villains, known as the Piraka, had already arrived and taken over, and after an epic confrontation, the Toa Inika were defeated. Wow, that's amazing. Did we get to see any of it? Nope, it all happened off screen in a book. Ah, well, that's kind of crap, but at least we did get the Piraka, which are the new villains of this set. In fact, for this wave, Bionicle would actually pivot the focus more towards the villains than the heroes, which is why the Piraka would end up being released first in the winter and becoming the mascots of the 2006 line. These were the most expensive standard Bionicle figures we had seen so far. Each Piraka came with a unique molded face, a distinctive spine piece, and an aggressive posture which set it apart from the previous villain sets. Their heads would house battery-powered red eyes, and their mouth featured glow-in-the-dark teeth. Each Piraka was also equipped with a Zemisphere launcher, a spring-loaded mechanism which would fire these little balls. And looking back at it now, you can see why the Piraka left such an impression amongst the fandom. They were so huge and imposing compared to some of the earlier sets. Also, unlike the previous villain sets, Piraka didn't follow a standard mold. Yes, some of the limbs and parts were shared, but their torsos, heads, and overall silhouettes were mostly unique. And whilst their designs were very cool, I did always feel bad for the brown one. Why the hell did they give him such a fat face? LEGO would also promote the release with a new type of marketing campaign. A lot of the visuals and aesthetics associated with the Piraka seemed to come straight out of the real world. And personally, I didn't really care for it. To me, Bionicle had worked so hard to establish its own world and visual language in the previous sets, and this kind of felt like a bit of a reset. And if that wasn't enough, we also have the infamous Piraka rap.
The tricker, tracer, drifter, the snake, the beast, the bully, all that makes Piraka. Piraka from Bionicle. Each set sold separately.
Now, whilst the Piraka were the overall villains, this set also had a big bad known as Vazon. This was the 7th Piraka who was created accidentally and ended up fusing with a massive spider, so kind of like an inverse Toa Inika. Okay, but what about the Toa? After all, there's no Bionicle without the Toa. Well, in the summer, we saw the release of the Toa Inika. You see, after the Toa Inika were defeated off-screen, their Matoran friends decided to travel to the new island in canisters to help them. But during their journey, they were struck by a bolt of energy from the mysterious red star and became the Toa Inika. That's right, the McDonald's Happy Meal toys finally got a glow-up. Although I'm not sure glow-up is the right term for it. Don't get me wrong, they still look really cool, but boy are they ugly. But I guess that was kind of the point. The Inika's transformation wasn't clean or noble, it was violent and unnatural and left them with these warped, half-organic designs. Each Inika had a rubber mask that clipped over the clear glowing dome, a design choice that was pretty controversial amongst fans at the time. They also retained the Zemisphere launcher just like the Piraka, but their melee weapons glowed with internal lights powered by built-in batteries. This made the Inika the first Toa wave to have light-up elements straight out of the box. The articulation remained high, and the figures were amongst the tallest Toa sets in the line's history. Just like their predecessors, all 6 shared the same basic skeleton, but their weapons and masks helped differentiate them. But unlike the previous waves, there was no alternative mask packs released this time. The visual style of the Inika was definitely divisive. Some fans appreciated the new direction, while others missed the cleaner, more mechanical look of the older generations. Just like the Piraka, the Inika also had a full-on marketing campaign, and once again they leaned heavily into the real-world visual. Actually, it was just mostly a lot of chain-linked fences. And of course, it was all backed by the now infamous Move Along by the All-American Rejects. Now, usually this is where I'd play the ad, but I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I had to make my own version on the kazoo. There was also this bizarre web campaign which pretended that the Piraka had actually kidnapped the real-life band.
Chart-topping rock group, the All-American Rejects, is feared to be lost at sea. The band, sailing aboard chartered luxury cruiser, the Rock Yacht 3, lost radio contact when the ship neared an unknown island. Sources tell us the band was allegedly captured by the evil Piraka.
The overarching plot of the 2006 wave revolved around the Toa and the Piraka fighting over the Mask of Life. Eventually, the Toa do defeat the Piraka, but before they can use the mask, it falls into the ocean below. Damn it, I hate it when that happens. As in previous years, the story was supported by books and comics, which filled in the additional details and character moments. But for the first time since 2003, there was no movie to accompany the sets. Instead, LEGO released a new game titled Bionicle Heroes. Heroes was a third-person shooter where the player switches between the different Toa masks to gain elemental powers. The game loosely featured characters and moments from the 2006 wave, but the story was very much non-canon. Still, it was probably the most polished Bionicle game ever made. Leave a comment below if you want to see a dedicated video comparing every version of Bionicle Heroes in the future. And just like the previous waves, both the 2006 and 7 years had large and special edition sets along with playsets.
New from Bionicle. Join the Piraka and build the most wicked bone fortress ever. Close the skull gate, release the bullets, load your arms, and search for your enemies. The Toa put the fortress under fire and stormed the gate. But they forgot one thing. It's alive. Piraka Stronghold. New playsets from Bionicle.
Okay, let's move on to 2007. This wave picks up immediately after the events of the previous year. The Mask of Life has fallen into the sea, so naturally the battle moves underwater. The setting was Mahri Nui, a sunken Matoran city located in the depths below Voya Nui. And once again, LEGO would split this set's release into 2 waves, starting with the villains in the winter. And this year's villains were the Baraki, 6 ancient warlords who had been mutated into sea creatures after centuries of imprisonment. Each figure had a unique sea creature theme, and their designs incorporated translucent parts, rubbery limbs, and alien textures. Unlike most past villains, the Baraki didn't follow a shared mold. Their body types varied, giving them a sense of individuality and menace. The central gimmick this year was the squid launcher. Instead of the Zemisphere, each Baraki had their own rubber squid that could be squeezed and launched. In theory, it was a novel concept. In practice, it rarely worked as intended. Despite the gimmick, the Baraki were praised for their creativity and for pushing Bionicle's aesthetic even further from its technic roots. In the summer, we saw the release of the Toa Mari. As expected, these were the same 6 characters introduced in 2006, now mutated by the Mask of Life to survive underwater. These poor Matorans, they just keep getting mutated. Gone with the glowing weapons and the orb heads. Instead, each Mari came with a Kordak blaster, an air pump launcher which could fire up to 6 projectiles. Their heads had reverted to the classic design with visible faces underneath a more stylized mask. The aquatic theme extended across all of their armor, which included flippers, hoses, breathing tubes, and underwater details. Whilst the figures were bulkier than the Inika, their proportions were a bit uneven. The upper bodies were heavily armored, but the legs were really thin. I guess the Toa Mari just hated doing leg day. There was also another notable change. The Mari sets were the first Toa to be sold in boxes rather than canisters. The story followed the Toa Mahri as they descended into the ocean to retrieve the Mask of Life, now resting in the sunken city of Mahri Nui. Naturally, the Baraki had other plans for the mask. After a number of battles spanning different locations, Matoro, the Toa of Ice, used the mask's power to finally restore the Great Spirit, but the act came at a great cost and Matoro died. This was a pretty bold move, making it the first time one of the central characters actually died. Unlike previous years, 2007's line had no video game or movie tie-ins. The story was told entirely through books, comics, and web materials. And so there we have it, the 2006 and 7 Bionicle wave. These years marked a major turning point for the series. There were plenty of new ideas introduced here, bold visual designs, battery-powered elements, and entirely new locations that expanded the world beyond anything we'd seen before. These sets still carried the ambition to push the line forward, but in many ways they felt like a soft reboot. The focus was clearly shifted towards making Bionicle feel edgier, darker, and more mature. Whether or not that shift landed is up for debate. Luckily, the next year would finally see the return of the original Toa in another soft reboot. But that's a topic for another video. In the meantime, please let me know your memories of the 2006 and 7 waves of Bionicle. Which was your favorite set, favorite character, and which of the projectiles was the worst choking hazard? Fuck. As always, thanks for watching. Please consider supporting me on Patreon, and a big thanks to my existing patrons. If you've enjoyed this video, then please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.